Welcome, one and all, to the Dallas Cowboys Overtime here on StarTelegram.com. I am Fort Worth Star-Telegram columnist Coach Mac Engel, joined by Mr. Clarence E. Hill Jr. Behind me is a home that's been redecorated with a bunch of junk that can all be yours for $14.99. Just pay me on Venmo. I want to thank the good people at Window Nation for sponsoring this episode as well as every other episode of Cowboys Overtime. Clarence,
hey,
see you. You look refreshed, beautiful as always.
Before we get started, the ladies in the office wanted to know, since you dressed up for Indiana Jones, why didn't you dress up for Barbie? Where's your Barbie gear? Where's your Barbie stuff?
That's a good. You're not going to like the answer to this. So, I did dress up as Indiana Jones. I've got all the crap. So I got invited to some movie premiere thing they're doing at South Lake Town Center, which is where they did the Indiana Jones thing. And they sent the invite for the new Barbie movie that's coming out Friday. And my daughter's very, very excited about it, which is weird because she really wasn't a Barbie kid at all. A little bit, but not very much. But obviously the movie's gained a ton of attention and publicity this summer. And so I said, yeah, absolutely. I'll go and I'll dress up. Because I do have a six-pack abs, six-pack of beer. Worked on that for weeks. Yeah. So then they said, so I tell her about it, and she's very excited. We're going to go, and it's this big, long thing. We dress up. And they're like, yeah, no kids. Wah, wah.
No kids to Barbie?
I don't even, yes. I can't get my very small brain around it. So I was going to dress up. And I don't even know what Ken dresses like. I have no idea. Barbie, I know it. Obviously, the Barbie costumes are forever. But I did kind of have an outfit, even though it's 110 degrees outside. But now I'm off the hook, so I'm not going to Barbie. I don't know what to think about it. I love movies, but I was going to, so tell them I was prepared to once again continue this run of Dad of the Year material. I'm just being honest. Oh, by the way, that reminds me. So for anybody who doesn't follow Clarence on social media, whether it's Twitter or Instagram, you need to do it because Clarence pulled off a good one. His youngest daughter, who's a little less than a month away from leaving the house and going to college at Rice University, has a job. Clarence, in his bid to humiliate his daughter a little bit longer before she goes off to college, shows up at work where she works. And from what I understand, at least on social media, she was not happy with you filming her at work.
Listen, if we can't harass our kids, who can we harass? That's the only joy we have because they harass us all the time.
Absolutely.
If you can't harass your kids, who can you harass?
Was it an act, or was she really annoyed with you?
I've done it several times, but I go up and video her and mess with her at work, and yeah, she gets annoyed. First of all, she gets annoyed at anything I do because she just doesn't want me to exist. I go to gymnastics meets and she wants me to sit down. Can you imagine me sitting down? I don't sit down anywhere.
No, you don't.
Like she wants, you guys, why do you have to move around? Like, why are you watching me? Just go and sit down. Don't talk to anybody.
Well, no, when you watched her, because when I watch my daughter play sporting events, I'm really quiet. I'll give her a hard time occasionally. Like I'm at a soccer game. She had a screw up, Clarence, and I yelled out, "What are we doing?" And but I'm really, really quiet. I don't make any noise. Now, when you watched her, at meets and stuff, which obviously gymnastics is kind of a quiet thing, anyways.
It's different.
But at the end, were you going crazy and hooping and hollering, or were you mostly reserved?
I'm reserved for me. I'm an excitable guy. And when my daughter was playing, when they were playing soccer, when Channing was playing soccer, I'm screaming. I'm the guy yelling and coaching. I'm that guy. Okay, I can't do that in gymnastics. Number one, because Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. You've never done gymnastics. What are you talking about? You don't know anything. And so, I get excited. But yeah, it's not like football or soccer or anything like that. But yeah, so I embarrass her all the time, and she hates it.
Good for you.
She actually loves it, but she hates it.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do? Like when Texas plays Rice, and you go, I'm sure you're gonna go down for it, and she's gonna cheer at the game. Are you gonna get a sideline pass, or how are you gonna do that? Because you've got you've got to be there for that. This is a big game. This is a big moment for her and you. What are you going to do?
I'm going to the game. I already got tickets.
No, but in terms of filming her and capturing her, like, how are you going to do that part?
I don't know. I don't know if I can get a sideline pass. Hey, John Bianca, can I get a sideline pass to take pictures of my daughter? Take pictures of my daughter on the other team.
Tell him that. You have to tell him that. You can be quiet about it. Okay. And now that Clarence and I are done talking about our children, we can move on to the news of the day, which there actually is news, even though we're a little bit more than a week away from the start of NFL training camps. And that is ESPN NFL reporter Adam Schefter, who's tied into a lot of NFL agents, is reporting this morning that Dallas Cowboys All-Pro veteran guard Zack Martin is contemplating a holdout and not reporting to training camp. I shouldn't say a holdout, but not reporting to training camp because when it comes to contracts, as guards go in the NFL, he is paid $7 million less than the top guards are in the NFL. And I don't think anybody would argue that Zack Martin isn't a top guard in the NFL. Clarence, when the Cowboys locked up Zack Martin a couple of years ago to an extension, at the time, he was the highest paid guard.
Yes.
It keeps going up. Do you think he's going to hold out? Do you think he's going to skip camp in an effort to secure a new deal?
Now everything, is kind of becomes clear. He didn't participate at all in OTAs, minicamp, and he said it was a soft tissue injury. Maybe it was a hold in, during OTAs and minicamp. The thing is, after the Zeke holdout of 2019, the NFL instituted a rule in 2020, CBA, that players can be fined $50,000 a day for holding out. So it kind of discourages holdouts. Not that apparently Zach may or may not care, but it would be a holdout. It's not if he doesn't show up, it would be actually holding out. He's subject to be fined $50,000 a day. It's funny because the Cowboys went into this offseason looking to extend Dak and CD and Trevon Diggs and guys like that. They really weren't contemplating that they'd have to do something with Zack Martin's contract, but Zack Martin's like, hey, I'm underpaid. Everybody's getting paid. I need to get paid what I'm worth because let's be honest, there's really no one on the team who does what he does as well as Zack Martin.
Correct.
And you can put that Dak, you can put that Michael Parsons, however you want to. What he is asked to do, no one does what he does as well as Zack Martin. And really, he just the Madden ratings came out and he got a 99 on the Madden rating, which is the highest you can get. He's the first guard to get a 99 and God knows how long. Universally considered the top guard in the league, or one or two. He's really a surefire Hall of Famer already.
Yep.
If he ends his career today, he would go right into the Hall of Fame. He deserves to be paid better than the 7th or 8th or 9th. I think he's right now 9th highest rated guard in the NFL on average salary. He's $7 million behind the top rated guy. Now, does he have to be number one? I don't know how they're going to make him happy. It's funny because we've talked to Zach a lot about the last few years about when is he going to retire. I mean, his contract was up in 2024. He's not a guy who's trying to play 20 years. So where are you at in terms of how long you want to continue to play, and certainly you want to be compensated as long as you're playing at a high level.
So I have two thoughts on this. One, the first one is you signed the contract, and at the time you were the highest paid player at your position. And there is something to be said for that. Like, you signed it, and the Cowboys, you can sit here and criticize the Cowboys for how they handle contract extensions. You can criticize the Cowboys all day long for how they handled Dak because they waited until the 11th hour, and as a result, they had to pay more when they didn't need to. Or, in the view that I see it as, this is a cutthroat business. You get what you get when you can. And if you've got leverage, then squeeze. And Zack Martin has leverage, and he should squeeze. The other part to this, Clarence, and we'll talk about this more with the next topic, what is the NFL Players Association doing by continually agreeing to these measures that hurt their members and their dues-paying members? Like, why, as an NFLPA member, would you sign off on any language that punishes you or your union brothers a $50,000 fine if you're holding out to get more money. That's patently absurd. And when I sit here and the older I get and the more it becomes about money and money and money, I'm like, what are you doing? So Troy Vincent and all these other guys who've assumed leadership positions in the NFLPA, what are you doing? You work for the players, not the owners. And I'm sorry, this infuriates me because when you said that, I'd forgotten about the $50,000 fine. What are all these ridiculous fines that they have to agree to for stupid infractions during game day? Oh, your wristbands are a little low, so that's a $10,013 fine. Why did you agree to that? I'm sorry, go ahead.
First of all, just one point of reference. Troy Vincent, poor Troy Vincent, he works for the NFL, not the NFL.
I know, but I got Troy. But he was a player rep for a long time. He was a player rep, but he's not now. But I'm looking at DeMaurice. No, it's DeMaurice Smith and all these other guys, and it drives me crazy. And I yell at I go ahead.
Nothing. I mean, you got it out. You good now? I mean, you got. Now, regarding Zack Martin.
Yeah. Well, first of all, wait. Do you agree with me?
Oh man, I certainly agree with you. You know, I'm on the player side, and I was really kind of going to go off on you for a second when you were talking about, well, he signed the contract. Well, of course he signed the contract. You know, there are guys. Zeke signed his contract too, and they cut him. So I mean, what I'm saying
they're
is
not worth toilet paper. I get it. You're right.
No,
go ahead.
You know, it's okay when you sign the contract and say we should live out his contract. Well, they don't live out their contracts.
No, you're right.
When your production declines, they get rid of you. So if your production gets better and your contract no longer fits your production, then you should get a raise. The same way if you don't live up to your contract, they will get rid of you. So it goes hand in hand. I'm on Zach's side. I'm always on the player's side because the Cowboys owners, they make more money than God allows. I mean, it's a cash cow, and this whole salary cap thing is a joke because they're making billions of dollars a year.
Yep,
billions of dollars a year.
So, do you think we will not see Zack Martin? And for training camp for a veteran like that, it doesn't matter. He doesn't need to play. He doesn't need to do anything. He'll be fine by week one. Do you think? The real question is, do you think there's any chance, Clarence, we will not see Zack Martin suited up for week one of the regular season?
Oh, I think he'll be there for week one. I think somehow, some way, they'll get something done. Again, he'll be there at the start of training camp. I guess I got to go early on Monday to find out.
All right, let's move on to our next. I'm Spanish now. Next topic, and that is the unofficial death of the running back. This has been a trend that has been going for some time now, and we have seen this offseason where NFL teams are not paying running backs long-term deals at all. In fact, there's a very good chance Zeke Elliott's big contract he signed a few years ago after he held out may be the last one that we see for some time. Tony Pollard, the Cowboys starting running back this season, could have signed an extension. There was obviously no movement because the Cowboys have no interest in giving this guy a long-term deal. He's going to play on the franchise tag. This goes back to what I was ranting about a minute ago about the NFLPA. We saw Derrick Henry, the all-pro running back from the Tennessee Titans, get into it on social media about this subject. Clarence, and I have my own thoughts of why this went the way it did about NFL running backs being devalued consistently over the years. And, well, you're popular. And I don't – obviously, the running back position is still very productive, but it's the guy who turns 28. You're like, who cares? We can find him anywhere. We're seeing it in college too. Do you see any way, Clarence, any way this trend is stopped?
No, because it's an analytics thing. It's a money thing. It's all that together. But I'm of the opinion, and it's crazy because I think that you're right about the CBA, and I think it's the franchise tag. That really hurts running backs and hurts this market because you put these guys on. You can sign them like first round pick. You sign them, you tag them, you release them. It's like you don't really have to commit to them. And I have a problem with these football nerds who say the running back is not important.
Very important.
Saquon Barkley is the best player on the Giants, most important player on that offense. I think. and to sit up here and say, well, it's okay to give Daniel Jones $45 million, but how dare you give Saquon Barkley $14 million? That's just going to wreck your cap. Makes no sense. It makes no sense when he's so important to what you do. And there are people who would say, I tweeted this other day, no one bats an eye that Michael Gallup got a 5-year, $62 million contract. Okay. Nope. You get that to Tony Pollard, people are like, oh, you can't do that. Right. Who's more important to the Cowboys, Tony Pollard or Michael Gallup?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's the idea that I think the problem, first of all, you're right. It's the analytics thing, all this stuff, all the statistics said, X, Y, and Z, and the GMs have followed it, and player personnel people have followed it in lockstep. And not just in, obviously, the leader in that was Major League Baseball, and now it's kind of filtered to football a little bit, specifically with this position. I mean, it's become like a kicker where we can find one anywhere. Right. Well, that's not entirely true. You can't find great ones like Barkley, like Zeke in that window. So really what you got to do is, if you're a great running back and you were drafted in the first round and you're locked into that 5-year deal and you're looking at basically a 6-year career, well, then after your second year, if you've been great those first 2 years, then after your second year, you've got to hold out.
Yeah, but you're going to get fined $50,000.
Yeah, and that goes back to my rant about the Players Association. So, when we look at Tony Pollard, Clarence, is there any way we're not looking at the last year of Tony Pollard's career with the Cowboys?
No,
Are they just going to give him one more franchise tag?
They can tag him again. They can tag him again. They can tag him again. Tag him again. That's what you do.
And the franchise tag, it should be noted, is a lot of money. I mean, it's not like it's some bum salary. It's the average of the top 5 salaries at that position.
It's come down though for running backs compared to other positions in the league, which has gone up. The franchise tag is it's consistently gone up. For other positions, running back has gone down at like $10 million. So which is where he's at now. The thing about Tony, and he's different than Saquon Barkley, who was the first round pick. Tony was the 4th round pick. That's $10 million he's getting this year is the most he's ever made. It's like hitting the lottery for him compared to where he came from. As a 4th round pick, and you're really not a starter even in college. But for guys like Barkley and the 1st round picks, it's a tough pill to swallow that you cannot get valued among the best players on your team, best players in the league, when you clearly are that in production wise. And so, the Tony Pollard thing is interesting. He's basically swapping out Zeke's salary, who's going to make a roughly $10 million. He's getting that Zeke money. But how much more can you put on him, to justify his salary? You're not gonna give him 300 touches like Zeke.
Nope. All right, we've agreed on a lot. We've got more to talk about here on Cowboys Overtime. But first, a word from the good people at Window Nation.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, can help you fill the house this season with savings. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and make no payments and pay no interest until 2025. Fill your house for a customized authentic Dallas Cowboys jersey while supplies last. You could even help fill the Cowboys house and win tickets to a game. Visit windownation.com/Cowboys now for details. Call 866-95-NATION. Window Nation, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Thank you, Window Nation. Back here on StarTelegram.com to talk Cowboys Overtime. I'm Mac Engel. That's Clarence E. Hill Jr. We are a week away from the start of training camp, and Dak Prescott's interception totals apparently will be the story until the end of time. There was a little bit of a mishap that the Star-Telegram, young reporter of ours, accidentally made yesterday, when he reported that Dak Prescott said he would not throw 10 interceptions this season, guaranteed it. Well, for those of us who are familiar with Dak Prescott and specifically been around him, sometimes he can be a bit of a soft talker. And our young reporter accidentally made an honest mistake, and he thought that Dak said 10, when in fact what he said was tipped, Tipped. Big difference. It's a total misunderstanding. Mistakes happen. It's not the end of the world. But the point is, Dak Prescott made a very good point. And as you got into the conversation yesterday on social media with a lot of people, Dak Prescott's interception total continues to falsify a narrative that he's just some giant interception machine, when in fact, if you look at him statistically, he really isn't. Now, he did have a rut last year where it was almost unbelievable, where, he'd throw a ball and would get tipped and some kicker would intercept him. He just was an unbelievable bad run of luck. Clarence, my question to you is and you've covered all the quarterbacks since Troy Aikman. Is there really anything this man can do to dispel the notion that he ain't good enough short of winning Super Bowl MVP honors?
Well, I mean, I think it's getting to the championship game and getting to the Super Bowl is a start, and that's where they have to go. And it's funny because I just go back to people just are losing their mind regarding Dak and the interceptions and everything this year because historically he doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. Last year he did have a lot of tipped interceptions. Last year, to me, I said it from the start of training camp, the Cowboys receiving corps was one of the worst in the league. They did not make Dak any favors. And yes, I know he got $45 million, but no one ever said Dak was Patrick Mahomes. He's not going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. It's funny because, someone on one of the talk shows said Dak's not talented enough to get to the NFC Championship game. I
don't buy that.
I'm like, didn't Garoppolo get there 2 years ago and Purdy get there last year? I mean, it's not about talent. It's about the team. It's about the team around you, to get to the NFC Championship game and ultimately win the Super Bowl. Certainly if everybody can be a Patrick Mahomes and make magic, that's fine, but that's not really the case. You still need a good team around you to make some things happen. And even Patrick Mahomes has arguably, a Hall of Fame tight end at his on his right. That's his, best target. You still need great players around your quarterback to make those things happen, and guys who make timely plays. I go back to the 49ers game, and no one talks about it. It's you can say what you want about Dak, the way Dak played. Trevon Diggs is up for a contract. Trevon Diggs dropped the interception. He didn't make a tackle on a tight end that was on a drive that led to a touchdown. That could have been the difference in the game.
And if you
go crazy about Dak's, turnovers. But if other guys make plays when they should make plays, we're having a different conversation.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that game is, the last thing you do is the last impression that you're going to have of a player. And the bottom line is he wasn't very good that game. I mean, no one really on offense was, and you said it 100 times. Once they lost Tony Pollard to that broken leg, they had no real weapons. San Francisco could sell out and take away CeeDee Lamb. Michael Gallup wasn't going to do anything. The tight ends weren't a threat. Zeke had nothing left. I mean, and it just wasn't there. But but at the same time, in fairness to Dak, if you look at some of the crucial decisions that were made, he didn't play very well. The interception inside the red zone against San Francisco, picked off by Fred Warner. He was going for CeeDee Lamb. He was fortunate it wasn't there. Warner made a good play. The interception to Gallup. Gallup didn't run a good route. He shouldn't have thrown the ball. There's a lot of different decisions that he made. Clearly in the potential game-tying drive or game-winning drive there at the end, Dak should have thrown a pick six. It was the only reason it wasn't a pick six because the guy dropped it. That game was there to be had. In a game like that, where the margin of error is nothing, you've got to make that play. Or in some cases, just don't do anything. And neither happened, or they happened in the wrong direction. So I think, in terms of Dak and about this interception thing, Clarence, he's just going to have to deal with it because I don't think this is going away.
No, it's not going to. You're just talking to everybody. The reason he thinks that the interception down because they have a better understanding. At least their word. The buzzword now is that we're all on the same page. Everybody knows what they're supposed to be, where they're supposed to be. A couple of interceptions you saw, CD and Schultz were in the same area. People not understanding where they're supposed to be. That's one thing that Dak talked about, that day at the camp when he said tipped. He said that everybody's on the same page. We won't have those tipped interceptions because we know where we're supposed to be. We all have an understanding of everybody's job on the offense, and that should result in less tipped passes for interceptions.
Well, the one that I look at, and he did, like the one in Tennessee last year, was off of Hendershot. It was in and out of Hendershot's hands. What are the odds of that? They happen, but the one that just got me was the walk-off interception that Jacksonville had against him. When Dak made a play under duress, he put the ball on the guy.
Right.
It wasn't, it was a hard play to make, and he put it on him. Doesn't make the play, goes in another guy's hands. He runs it back the whole way to end the game. Okay, we've got 1 week left before the start of NFL training camps. You will be there for the Star Telegram in beautiful Oxnard, California. Not that I'm jealous. Clarence, Give me one position battle.
Sure.
One position battle that you are real. I'll give you mine in here in a second, but give me one position battle that you're really interested in watching because it could have ultimately a big impact on how this team plays this season.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's a position battle, but it's what they're going to do up front on the offensive line, and which is even more acute now with the Zack Martin situation and the left guard position is, are you going to start Tyler Smith at left guard and Tyron Smith at left tackle and go for and Terrence Steele at right tackle? Well, with Tyler Smith at left guard, Tyron Smith at right tackle, Terrence Steele inside. What are they going to do up front? And again, the situation that's been the biggest concern and focus for this offensive line, how they're going to play, put their best 5 guys up front. And now we have this Zack Martin situation where he may not be there for the starting camp. So, that's going to tell the tale. One thing that we don't talk about enough, haven't talked about enough, is how bad the offensive line was last year.
It did get worse, didn't it?
Dak did not have a lot of sacks because he made some things happen in the pocket. But the offensive line was horrible. It's one thing that Mike McCarthy talked about was improving the blocking schemes to help Dak be a better decision maker and be more efficient. And you do that by improving the protection up front because the protection was bad last year.
The one that I'm really curious to watch, and obviously we really won't know until September, is what do we see from Michael Gallup and Jalen Tolliver? Gallup was a guy who came back from an ACL or Achilles. Was it ACL or Achilles?
ACL.
ACL. Thank you very much. I flip-flopped him. Came back and really wasn't the same guy. We thought maybe he was in December of last year, and he never looked like Michael Gallup. We just never did. And Jalen Tolbert is a former third-round pick from 2 years ago, from last year, who never really did anything. And he has said the right things in the offseason. And I'm curious to see what those guys have. I mean, you would think as a third-round pick, there's something there. I mean, they spent a third-round pick on him, so there was something about him they liked. And I'm curious to see if that hits and if Michael Gallup will ever return to be the same player that he once was. Now, obviously, the Cowboys addressed that by acquiring Brandon Cooks from the Texans, so he's going to be your starter. But as a third receiver and as another option, talk about Dak and weapons, I want to see if these guys can give Dak Prescott an available, nice upgrade over what they had last season, which was nothing.
What we do know is that they just went to Georgia and spent a few days in Georgia bonding at this lake in Georgia. Dak and his receivers and tight ends. So we'll see if that makes a difference before camp. They went to bond and gained some chemistry. So he took all the receivers out there to Georgia and it kind of a little bonding trip.
All right, last thing we're going to talk about is a little bit off course. It is involving a former Dallas Cowboy. A guy played for a lot of players. And that is at Big 12 Media Days, Oklahoma Sooners coach Brent Venables decided to reference Deion Sanders, now the head coach at the University of Colorado, when Venables said, and I'm paraphrasing here, when it came to his first season, he gave all of his players a chance and he didn't take the Deion route. Now, let me give everybody a quick update. Since Colorado hired Deion Sanders away from Jackson State, Deion ran off a lot of guys from what had been a really, really bad team. And he made no bones about it. He's like, I want you guys to succeed. You're just not going to succeed here. And he ran them off. Now, this happens at a lot of places, especially now with the transfer portal, where you can be immediately eligible pretty much anywhere right away. And he's not the only guy to do this. Pittsburgh coach Pat Narduzzi took a shot at Deion, and now Brent Venables. I thought this was less of a shot as much as it was just a reference. There are two ways to do this. You can do it the Deion way, which is I want all my own guys in right now. What Venables was really trying to do was say, hey, listen, I gave everybody time because I wanted to see what they had. He was a first-year coach. They had a losing record. I was on record early on saying I didn't think Venables was going to be a good solution at Oklahoma. I thought they were due for a dip. Just statistically, if you look at it, all these programs eventually go down, and they're due for it. I think when they go in the SEC, they're going to turn into Nebraska. I think they're just going to be a second-tier team in that league. But what you want to know is why people keep taking a shot at your good friend, Deion Sanders.
Now, it was really about, that. And actually, a Pac-10 coach took a shot as well. But my thing was Venables, and, I got the Oklahoma posse after me on Twitter.
I know what this is like. Okay.
Boy, they're blowing up my missus. You're a clown.
You're racist. Yeah, I'm sure that's what it is.
Whatever else, everything, of course. my thing is this, and I said it, you bring up Dion and how he did things to try to justify how you did things because you had a down year. You had a losing record. You did not expect that. Everybody's not happy. So you're going to try to say, well, I gave guys grace. I gave guys a year to get it together, to justify your roster and your year. We all know that if you don't improve, you may not make it to the SEC.
Think they fire him after a second year? If they have a losing record, they might.
If they have a losing record going to that, you're not taking that mess to the SEC. What gives you hope going to the SEC if you have a losing record?
The only thing that'll save him is his buyout. They just don't want to pay the buyout.
It's Oklahoma football, and they're not going to take this down play. But my point is, you could have referenced a lot of teams. First of all, Dion was not in your hiring cycle. Okay, you were hired a year ago. Dion was hired this past year. Why is how Dion is doing things compared to what you're doing? Or why do you compare to Matt Rule and some other guys who were hired in Dion's cycle? Why is Dion the poster child of hey, I didn't do it that way. Those are my things. Those are my issues with Venables and how he handles them because, again, he was hired in a cycle a year ago. There were other coaches who were hired in the same cycle who did things differently than he did. He didn't bring them up and use them to juxtapose how he did things, ultimately how his team failed in what he did.
Because I think I'm torn on Dion. I am legitimately. No,
and you're a media member. You should be, but
I am.
As a coach, you've been a player hater. Don't speak.
You
can speak on Oklahoma without speaking on somebody else.
Yeah, no, and you're right. But I think like when Pat Narduzzi made his comment, and Dion from a media perspective is as smart as any ex-player I've ever seen. He's just so naturally gifted in front of the camera. Even if you hate him, he's just naturally gifted in front of the camera. And in fact, I think that's what he should be doing anyways. But he wants to do this, and they gave him a shot. I can't blame Colorado for rolling the dice on this. And it is a dice roll. This is not a guarantee. I mean, you just never know. Colorado's been a down program for a long, long time. And the idea that, we'll try this. They had to try something. And I feel bad for Colorado because they had a great coach in Mel Tucker, and Mel left, for more money. And that's a different issue. But with Dion, I think in this case, it's going to be made about race because that's what happens. Because sometimes it is. The truth is. But for me, hang on, let me just finish it and I'll let you say. For me, it's more about Dion wisely is very shrewd about this stuff. And virtually everything he does and everything he has done since he walked into Colorado has been put on social media, and he's advertising it, made into little stories. I've heard plenty of examples where what he's doing around there is about content, because he thinks, and he might be right, the best way to reach a 17-year-old are these snippets of content and interactions with Ralphie, the Buffalo at Colorado, or student athletes or whomever, or speeches, or all these other stuff that he's doing. That's what he's doing. And when you do that, then you put yourself in sort of a line of fire. And I don't care if you're white, black, red, he's got a big mouth. And when you've got a big mouth and you tell everybody how great you are and what you're doing is this, that, and the other, then you open yourself up to commentary.
Again, commentary from you as a media member is one thing. Commentary from a fellow coach that had nothing to do with your situation, not even on your schedule, how you play things, is different. I mean, TCU hired a coach last year the same time that the Venables got hired. Why I hear you, but what I'm saying is what Dion's doing in Colorado has nothing to do with what Oklahoma's doing and how they're doing their business. When you inject someone into your business that had nothing to do with your business, why are you doing that? It doesn't matter what Dion's mouth or what social media had nothing to do with how Venables went about his business at Oklahoma. It had nothing to do about what Venables is going to do at Oklahoma this year. They're not on the schedule.
Nope.
So there's no reason to inject Dion and Colorado into your situation unless you're trying to prop yourself up or make yourself look good on, hey, I didn't do it this way. Right. I did it this way. That's the only thing you're doing, because regardless of what you say about Dion, it had nothing to do with Oklahoma. Nothing at all.
I think the truth of the matter is what Brent and a lot of these guys, a lot of them would not say, because they can't say it, but what they feel is this guy took a shortcut around to a Power 5 job and didn't go up the traditional, way. So they're mad about it. I think a lot of these guys, Clarence, a lot of them black and white, are really not happy with the way college football has evolved. And all these guys are going everywhere, and they're exerting all this power and leverage now.
Well, they don't like the players having power. And a lot of these old school coaches.
And this is the way they lash out. This is the way it's why a lot of those guys left college basketball. It's Coach Krzyzewski, Coach Boeheim, all these guys, and I think a lot of them are mad about it.
Well, it ain't right. I mean, it's no fun when the rabbit got the gun. When you're in control, when you're in control, it's fine. When someone else is in control, you got a problem with it. It ain't right. And I'm talking about, again, my point is just the principalities of the thing. From a principal standpoint, worry about Oklahoma, okay? Worry about your school and how you're doing business. Worry about, satisfying your fans and your boosters and what you need to do. Colorado, there's no reason to bring that in your mouth. There's no reason to talk about Colorado. That is all I'm saying.
No, and the better way for him to handle it would have been to say, look, there's a lot of different ways to do this. We could have run everybody off and say, get out. I want my own guys. I could have done that, but I chose to do it this way because that way it's totally vague, and you're not necessarily sitting there saying Deion Sanders, University of Colorado, because once you do that, then you've made it personal, right? You have.
Yes.
And he made it, and he didn't need to do that because, listen.
That's my only point. He didn't need to do it.
Deion, like I said, I'm really torn about Deion, but Deion called him out. He's like, they handed you a Ferrari, and you were
he didn't make that quote. He already said that was a fake quote.
Oh, it was a fake quote?
Yes.
I can't believe anything anymore. Okay, Clarence, you and I've talked for months. What day are you going out to California?
I'm going Monday.
Going Monday. Have a lot of fun. Enjoy the time. For all of your Cowboys coverage needs, be sure to check us out on StarTelegram.com and be sure to follow Clarence live from Oxnard. We'll see you next week.